this roundtable is going to be brief in terms of the commissioners, because we want to hear from you about what you see and how you understand. To young people, I say, there's a song that says, I hope you never lose your sense of wonder, meaning that the world is a large place and an awful lot of things that you can do to make your life better. Congresswoman talked about the reduction in homicides, and while, yes, we have had a reduction, but we still had 114 homicides so far this year. That's a lot of folks down. And when you look at the numbers, young people make up about 46% of the people who are involved in serious criminal activity.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to say that it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Congresswoman Norton, and all of my inspirations that's on this panel. We're here to talk about youth violence. I come up on Hanover Place, the same block that my father and my uncles, all the other individuals in my life, all the male influence in my life grew up in. And on that block, those individuals, my dad, my uncles, made a name and reputation for themselves as being drug kingpins, gamblers, bank robbers, the whole nine. Coming up, I never really felt like they wanted me to follow in their footsteps per se. But people teach what they know. And I say that, I mean that I was groomed to kind of assume their position. Not necessarily encouraged, but anybody that knows me, they know that Jay-Z is one of my favorite rappers. He has a quote that says, I put my feet in the footprints left for me without saying a word. Ghetto got a mistress never.
But what do you see amongst your young black men over the last 4 years since crime has gone down in our community?
Why don't you start, John?
Personally, I definitely see, I mean, I know what the statistics tell us. I read a book one time called How to Lie with Statistics.
Right.
I think crime is definitely prevalent in our communities. We're seeing the same thing that you're seeing more. And again, I want to be clear that you got to understand these communities and these impoverished communities that we come from, you know, for young men especially, your value is based on how tough you are. So when we talk about, you know, the weapons and, you know, MAC-10s and AK-47s that's readily available to these young people that's dealing with a whole laundry list of other issues. And again, your value is determined on how hard you go. Like, kids are more concerned with going, in their terminology, than going to school. And it didn't just get like this. This is what I'm telling you, from I'm 30, it's been like that.
How can we as a community help these young folks get through their teenage years alive?
What's important is that those of us that quote unquote make it, that we stay. It's been, you know, historically, we grow up in communities and we ascend and we leave. So they don't see us. I'm still at 39 Hanover. How are we planning on leaving? You know, and also, let me say this, in neighborhoods like Hanover, Certain Courts, first, you know, all my surrounding communities, it's constantly prey environment. You know, the worst thing you can be perceived as is being a person that can be preyed upon. The only thing sometimes to stop violence or oppression in the sense that come your way is that a person needs to feel like you can be a predator. And predators don't always hunt, but you have to, people need to understand in order to give you that respect that they can be preyed upon. And I was sort of that guy. I never went out looking for trouble, but I think people understood that, and based on my family, that, you know, if you bothered me, then it would be some, you know, retaliation in a sense. But when I got about 14, 15, that's when my neighborhood really got violent for me. And we got into a dispute with individuals a block away from my community, you know, in certain quarters. I'm in Hanover first to know, and we got into a dispute, or beef as we call it, guys that we grew up with a block away. And that's when my friends started to die. And we talk about youth violence, and I think a lot of times we expect the youth to make rational decisions, to make adult-like decisions, but they're children. And I can remember my mindset of being a child and dealing with pain and dealing with anger. And I had something that my friends didn't have. I had a sense of morality. I had values that were put into me by these people that society called monsters. Those same bank robbers and drug kingpins and gamblers taught me to respect my elders, to value my life. And like I said, I soon saw that my peers, my friends, they didn't have that. You know, their mothers on crack, they never knew their fathers. And I had a lady that's sitting right in this front row, my grandmother, who raised me to respect life. And I think that's what kind of stopped me from feeling like my life was hopeless. And if I did something, I would have to look her in her face. And that was one of the things that I couldn't deal with. Even within that, when you lose people that you grew up your whole life with, and you feel like somebody took that person from you, and all you ever saw in those situations, when those things happen, you're taught that you retaliate in that same way. And what's happened in this city over the past 30 years is that it's been a culture developed, the same culture that I was brought up in across the city. Kids are brought up and taught that if harm is done to you, you strike back in the same way, or you strike back harder. And that's something that I feel like if we're ever going to correct this issue, and using me as an example in the same way, is that we have to put other things into these kids. You have individuals with low self-esteem, you got drug use, you got, and then people are taught that's the way you react. Not until the repercussions come, whether it's life in prison or people die themselves or get injured, people start to think about it. But of course, we all know that's when it's too late. I'm really a proponent of if you help the mom and the dad, you can help the baby. Until then, in that same quote that I used, these children still walk that path that's laid out before them. And there's too many stories of Tony Will Sr., the drug dealer who got life in prison, or the many friends I lost that died at 16, 17, 18, then Tony Wills Jr. And if you want to coexist, like, and when I say coexist, I mean if you want to go to school for your mother, if you want to go to school, whatever it may be, you have to interact and act accordingly. And that is the culture. It's entrenched. And you, like, I used to be a roving leader in Ward 2 at Kidney Recreation Center. This is my kid right here. This man, I'm so proud to hear him and see him. But I used to coach him basketball, flag football, and I was 23, he might have been 14. But the point I'm making is he was a good kid. I used to encourage him to try to go around every like I did. But at the end of the day, you be the best kid in the world, he had to go to the giant for his mother. You understand what I'm saying? From that trip from Immaculate Conception to the giant, 10, 20 feet away, he got to pass so much that's going to challenge him. And if he want to bring back his mother's groceries, there's certain things he's going to have to do. Bottom line. And so until we address that type of those issues, sometimes I think it's not so much that we don't understand the problem. It's more about we don't see the whole problem, the entire problem. The underlying, all we see is what's face value. All we see that young guy killed another young guy. We missed that he was empty. We missed that he was hurt. We missed that he was drug addicted, not to marginalize or justify actions like that. But the reality of it is, it's other things. And until we address those other things, God bless us.
Do God, but we got to find black male. We got to put him back, reconnect him to his family, so that he can guidance and direction. What I'm going to do is have Moses start off with some questions, and I'll call each one of the commissioners to ask the panelists questions. But I first want to acknowledge Judge Bush from Eastern Superior Court.
we might not have men in our home, but there's always somebody in the community that you can go to. They don't have to be a Martin Luther King. They don't have to be a Frederick Douglass. They don't have to be a Thurgood Marshall. They don't have to be a Malcolm X. There's somebody with a postman or a bus driver or somebody who might be there that you can look to. Secondly, my thoughts are that, did you ever think about when these crimes are happening, that it isn't just me shooting you, but the repercussions, what it does to my mother, my sister, my brother, and the other family, all the repercussions that span out. You know, it's just not me and you, but it's a whole family that you begin to affect. And if you care about these people, then we got to think about that. And my last thought is that, does God ever play a role in your lives? You know, and if so, whether or not there's something that you hold on to. For many of us in the past, from slavery to whatever, God was the reason that we were able to get through a lot of what we got through. And if some of you would like to comment on those thoughts, I would appreciate it.
Tony, back to you.
First, I think we talk about the effects of these acts, right? How they affect our families. I think crazy thought process, and I know this is one that I've had before, and I think a lot of our young people have, is that, you know, I'd rather your family cry than my family. I think it's, to the other point, it comes, and that type of ideology is created because there is a lack of morality, right? There is a lack of appreciation for higher power. And I think for me, I absolutely had that. And even trying, that was what I struggled with, because I remember one incident where a guy that my neighborhood had an issue with was walking in our neighborhood with his mother. One of my friends was going to get a gun. He was going to harm him whether his mother was there or not, right? Now, for me, I couldn't let that happen. And so, I stepped in, intervened, by the grace of God, my friend, you know, had enough respect for me to not act on what he was going to do. But after that, he asked me, do you think if you walk with your mother, that he would have stopped somebody from doing something to you? And that kind of showed me that it was hard to have morality in such an amoral environment. But for me, I think my belief in God was my saving grace. Absolutely. Without a doubt. I had, you know, you gotta think, man, I talk about it with my dad, but, you know, I had a mother who, because of my dad's situation, went into a deep, dark depression. You know, my mother had to go back and forth to St. Elizabeth during my childhood. And so, it was only God, it was the only person I could call on in those moments when my father was absent and my mother in St. Elizabeth. You know what I mean? And I'm young, but even as much as I live with my grandmother, I think she leaned on me a lot. And we always had prayer, so definitely God got us through.
I thank Tony Lewis. Groomed, raised to be a criminal. I thank you for insisting, Tony Lewis, upon defining yourself as a man, and now a young man, who made every one of us proud as we listen to you this evening. Now I'm going to close this off the right way. You heard them alluded to. The applause I want to hear now is for the mothers and the grandmothers who raised this.